And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day, no matter where they are and what they're doing. I was only going to do the Secret Invasion show, which, by the way, will be coming up later on this afternoon. But there are a lot of big things to get to, and some that are very necessary. And there's one topic that we're going to be talking about later on for the Secret Invasion show that is getting everybody riled up. And so we're definitely going to be covering that, but not in this show, though. So just to, you know, I want to put that out there right now. Trust me, it is a big thing, and we will be talking about it. Hey, Dad, how are you? So Dad is one of our loyal members here. And by the way, if you want to become a loyal member too, or just a member of the channel, you can do it at there's a little join button there. All you got to do is hit that join button. There's 3 levels. $2.99 is your basic. $5.99 is your middle. And $99.99 is the max. I made it very cheap for everybody. $9.99 gets you a 1-hour private chat just with me, talking about whatever you want, scheduling, whatever you want. So, yeah. So, anyways, there's a lot of stuff to get to. And as I said, I wasn't going to do a show, but there is a lot of stuff to get to, and I think it's necessary. So, as I said, so right around 3 o'clock, I'll tweet it out, but I think it's going to be right around 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. I will be doing the episode 1 spoiler cast for Secret Invasion. So, all that out of the way. So let's just jump right in. So I want the first story here is it's cool. And, we always talk about film and how actors are cast or actresses are cast in roles. You go, what? Why? And I saw this story this morning on THR, and it's interesting because there are certain moments in life where you go, oh, that's pretty cool. And this was one of those moments. So as I'm reading the story, the song I Have Imagined by John Lennon actually playing, as one of my liked songs on my playlist. And I thought this was a great moment. Anyways, it's about the movie The Little Mermaid. So, of course, this is a film that had a lot of backlash to it, okay? Because of critics saying, "Oh, why is this actress black? Blah blah, African American, blah blah blah." They need to cast somebody. Okay, so I've always said this: there are always going to be naysayers, and she did a phenomenal job. Okay, now I haven't seen the movie per se, but everybody that I've spoken to has said she's done a phenomenal job, and I take their word at its validity. That being said, the movie blew up here, okay, for the first week, and then it went down 66%, but it still made $40 million the second week. Anyways, here is the power of film, and I want to be crystal clear about this. This is the power of film and what people can do. So let me jump into the story. It's from the THR, like I said, and the headline reads, The Little Mermaid becomes a blockbuster in the Philippines amidst racist backlash everywhere in Asia. The Little Mermaid may have bombed in some key markets in Asia, but in the Philippines, it has become a splashy success. Disney's live-action remake of the 1989 animated classic is currently the biggest blockbuster of the year in the Southeast Asian country, having earned $5.8 million and surpassed Hollywood's 2 biggest global hits of the year, Universal's Super Mario Brothers, which is 2.2 million, and Guardians of the Galaxy, which made 4.7 million. Now, I want to preface it by saying this. 5.8 million doesn't sound like a lot, but you have to equate it in respect to what the currency is over in the Philippines. And, I mean, that's pocket change in the United States. So just keep that in mind. The Philippines obviously is a standout market for us, said John Hu, Disney's senior VP studios in Asia Pacific. It's rare, but it's the biggest territory in Little Mermaid in Southeast Asia by far. Our third highest grossing market in Asia Pacific behind Australia and Japan and our 11th highest grossing territory globally. Elsewhere, the picture hasn't been so bright. In the vastly larger markets of China and South Korea, The Little Mermaid has majorly underperformed amidst a racist backlash on social media over the cast of Black actress Halle Bailey in the role of Ariel. The film earned just $3.6 million in China and $5.5 million in South Korea, a fraction of what other Disney live-action remakes have grossed in those markets. The Jungle Book in 2016, and of course The Lion King, which was in 2019, were outright blockbusters in China, earning $150 and $120 million respectively. In South Korea, Aladdin took $91 million, and Beauty and the Beast remake just a few years ago brought in $37.5 million. Disney has declined comment on The Little Mermaid's performance in those countries. In the Philippines, not only were such negative elements absent, but Bailey's performance was widely embraced by Filipino filmgoers, according to Hugh. They really loved Halle Bailey's performance as Ariel, and they really liked her as the new princess. The Little Mermaid is a notable standout for the Philippines market this year, said Rand Power of the Artistic Gateway, an exhibition industry consultant specializing in Asia. Powell points out that the film is doing better than any Hollywood fair this year, and it won't reach the heights of any other Disney live-action remakes released in the Philippines post-COVID. Aladdin earned $11 million there, and The Lion King took $10.2. This might be because the Philippines is still re-ramping as the theatrical market continues to recover from post-COVID, she said. In the United States, The Little Mermaid has been doing good business despite protests by some regarding Bailey's casting. The movie has earned north of $257 million since its May 24th debut. Box office analysts believe it could top out at $350 million domestic, close to Aladdin's domestic haul of $355.6. Japan is another market where The Little Mermaid is showing some promise. It's earned $10.3 million since its launch on June 9th. And last weekend beat Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Warner Brothers' The Flash. Word of mouth of the Little Mermaid is looking positive, but Japan is a famously slow burn market, so it'll take another week to see how that fares. So it goes on, and it talks about how well this is doing. And I just want to say this, finally. It's about damn time we stop this. And this goes to a couple different things. So this is a billboard that was actually in Japan, okay, that shows Ariel and the Little Mermaid, okay? It's about damn time. And so here's what I'll say to this. We here in the United States of America, and I'm guilty of this too, I'll be the first one to raise my hand. We are so critical of every little thing that every little actor and actress does. If we don't like how their hair is done, we get pissed off. If we don't like the color of their hair, we get upset. If we don't like anything about a certain thing, we get perturbed. Just enjoy the movie for what it is. And I think that in itself says everything you need to know. Because I've always said this time and time and time again. We here in the United States and Hollywood make movies for overseas. We don't make them for ourselves, okay? We make them for overseas because they will be enjoying that film just as much as we do. And to look at it like this is a movie that next week, okay, and it's almost a month of its release, has made $250 million. And when you look at other films, they've blown up even more. So what's wrong? Okay? Look, I understand Disney's a business. I understand what they want to do. But at the same time, at the same time, we have to be more, what's the word I want to use? Lighthearted about things. Okay? This is for a new generation. Anybody who wasn't around in 89 never got to see that. I mean, sure, they can watch it on Disney Plus and everything else, but this is for them. I did a whole podcast a few years back called Remakes, Reboots, and Sequels, the three things that drive Hollywood. And it's all about IP. Okay, because we've seen original IP. All you got to do is look at Elemental. Original IP, and yeah, there's some other things going along with that. Original IP bombed. Absolutely bombed. Okay? We all like IP. We all like the known. We don't like the unknown. All that being said, this is a fantastic story. And I think there's one lesson and moral to be learned here. Okay? We in the United States as film critics, and as I said, I'm in that same thing, okay? We need to be less critical. If you want to critique a movie, that's fine. Say, man, they could have done this, one pacing, or that's fine. But don't go full fledged. She sucks. She can't do anything. Blah blah. You have to, huh? What? How do you? What? Huh? Because that's total. Those people, they think they have to yell the loudest in order to get their voices heard, and that's not true at all. All they have to do is be respectful. But it just goes to show you what I was saying. Dad says people need to relax about the look of people. The quality of the movie should determine success, not because of a typical Caucasian character swiped by Haley's great. Yeah, I completely 100% wholeheartedly agree with you. She is great, and this is a good film. Now, did they tweak it here and there? Yes, but that was needed to be done. Okay, but this just, as I said before, this just goes to show you that and not everything has to be a critical success. Not everything has to blow up for $1 billion. But to have this be a blockbuster in Asia, in other markets. And the thing about that was that the cool thing about that was the 11th highest grossing market in the world. In the world. So I thought that this story was very relevant because it's one of those things where there's a lesson to be learned here. There is definitely a lesson to be learned here. And we need to just, and as I keep referring to, I'm guilty of this too. And we need to take a step back and we need to really understand things. You want to critique a film, that's fine, but don't disrespect it. Anyways, guys, what do you think about the Little Mermaid blowing up in the Philippines? Is it a surprise to you? Or do you think that this was always going to happen? Have you seen The Little Mermaid? If so, did you take somebody to go see it with? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'm going to get back to everybody. Okay. So, we go from a film that came out to something that's, frankly, a little scary. I got to be honest. So we love movies. I love movies. Everybody in the chat loves movies. Everybody watching here loves movies. And Dad says the internet is about who complains the loudest over things that is not serious. Take the 8. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And that's definitely something that. And there was a statement put out by the actual developers, and we're definitely going to get to that, later on today. But I agree with you wholeheartedly, Dev. So I love movies. Everybody in the chat loves movies. Everybody watching here loves movies. Movies are not only an art form, but they tell stories. And when you tell stories, it's one of those things where old stories, okay, have to be kept and preserved. And one of the greatest things that everybody has had at their disposal, okay, over the past, I would say 30 or 40 years, okay, even probably longer than that, is TCM. TCM, okay, is one of those things that it's a fantastic thing, okay, because you can watch a movie that maybe inspired you to get into movies, okay? I know that, I took a film class when I was 19, and I watched several films that were on TCM. But it's also one of those things where if you don't want to watch an IP, and we're all about IP today, you can go turn on TCM and watch something from the 1970s, okay? A Deer Hunter, Bonnie and Clyde, or something, anything. And it's a fantastic thing. Anyways, the reason I bring this up is because David Zaslav, yes, that David Zaslav from Max, okay, he needed to cut money, okay, and he even put this in. I did a story about this the other day about him licensing out some of his shows to Netflix to try and get some money in, because he promised investors, okay, by the end of 2024, okay, or 2023, it's going to turn a profit. By the end of 2025, it will have generated $1 billion in revenue, okay, which we'll see what happens with that. But nonetheless, two of the biggest, best minds, okay, and I think has changed the game, okay, and they're on Mount Rushmore, okay, is Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese. Their films over the past 40 years have changed the game, okay, whether it's Spielberg with Jaws and what he did, okay, or you've got Mean Streets with Scorsese. I mean, I could be here all day listing the movies that they've done. Anyways, the story is basically they went to David Zaslav and they said, look, we need to keep this stuff. And this comes from the THR. And basically it says that Spielberg and Scorsese, and actually Paul Thomas Anderson, who's not pictured there, were, quote, heartened by the TCM talks after Zaslav. Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, and Paul Thomas Anderson are reassuring fans that Turner Classic Movies, the classic film network and brand, in the midst of a shakeup that has startled people. In a joint statement released Wednesday, the three filmmakers said that Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav has reached out to them earlier in the week about plans to restructure TCM, which saw its executive VP and general manager exit this week after more than 25 years at the company, along with key members of her team. Michael Overland, the president of Adult Swim, Cartoon Network, Discovery Family, and Boomerang, will have oversight over TCM. We have spent time with David separately and together, and it's clear that TCM and classic cinema are very important to him, the director's statement read. Our primary aim is to ensure that TCM's programming is untouched and protected. We are heartened and encouraged by the conversations we've had thus far, and we are committed to working together to ensure that the continuation of the cultural touchstone that we all treasure. The TCM shakeup comes as WBD is undergoing a round of cuts in its domestic networks team. But the media conglomerate's classic film brand is one with a deep connection to Hollywood creatives, and news of change that has begun stirring a strong response both publicly and privately. After news of Shergan and his team's departure broke this week, Ryan Reynolds, yes, that Ryan Reynolds who's done Deadpool, okay, said, Turner Classic Movies has been a fixture in my life for as long as I can remember. It's a holy corner of film history and a living, breathing library for an entire film art film. Please do not fuck with TCM. In April, Zaslav took the unusual step for the CEO, appearing on stage of opening night of TCM's Classic Film Festival alongside Spielberg and Anderson for a conversation about film preservation, moderated by the network's longtime host, Ben Metzowitz. The movies taught us the stories of America, the stories of the world, and in some ways, how to be an American, Zaslav said at the event. The full text of the statement from Spielberg, Anderson, and Scorsese are below here. This is a brief statement. I'm just going to read it to you. So that's essentially what it was. It said, Turner Classic Movies has always been more than a channel. It's been a precious resource of cinema, open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And while it's never been a financial juggernaut, it's always been a profitable endeavor since its inception. Early in the week, David Zaslav, the CEO of WBD, got in touch with restructuring TCM. We understand the pressures and realities of a big corporation in which TCM is a moving part. And then it goes on to what I was saying. We have spent time with David separately and together, and it's clear that it's very important to him. Our primary aim is to ensure that TCM's program is untouched and protected. We are heartened and encouraged by the conversation we've had thus far, and we've committed to working together. So let's just dive into this because it's important. Number one, so Dad quickly says here, I'm sick about this news. I wholeheartedly love the channel and the hosts. Yeah, I love TCM too. I do as well. And you're absolutely right about that. You're absolutely right about that. I went to a TCM thing a couple years ago. It's a fantastic thing. And it's really what got me into, loving movies. So here's the thing. Okay. I understand it's a business. Okay. I also understand it's necessary for him to answer to stockholders. But at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, okay, he doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to do. Okay. So just because he took, Wes Anderson and Spielberg and Scorsese's, conversation, doesn't mean he has to follow through, keep it. Okay. If we've seen anything from David Zaslav, we know that he knows very little about the entertainment business. Very little. When he's calling The Flash one of the greatest Superman or superhero movies of all time, that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. Everything else he has done, whether it's the restructuring of Max, okay, where he took off almost 400 titles, which, by the way, at one point, the DOJ almost got involved, and the FTC were looking into the allegations of what happened with that, okay, to, now this, okay, to one of the biggest things when he came in, and that was Axing Batgirl, $90 million just gone. 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 And that was huge on so many different levels because you had, first of all, that would have been a Latino star in Leslie Grace, okay? It would have, Brendan Fraser was having a rough year at that too, okay? He was in that along with somebody else, If we're talking about bad CGI, look at what just happened. Look at what just happened with The Flash. That's, let them, there was no release date. Even they could have set this back another 6 months, worked on the CGI, released it in theaters, and made quite a bit of money. It would have blown up. Okay. So you got that. There are so many, I've always said this, previous results often dictate future outcomes. Just the fact that he's even merely talking acts of TCM. I mean, think about all the movies. Think about all the movies on there, okay? One of the greatest movies, even though it's a controversial movie today, is Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind is number 3, okay, on AFI's Top 100 list. Number 3. Think about that. That was done in 1939. Now, are the overtones of that film, do they not, is it controversial today? Yes. Are there warnings in front of the film? Yes. But think about all these movies that we would not have or that would get taken away. Okay? I'm talking about Gone with the Wind. I'm talking about Deer Hunter. I'm talking about Bonnie and Clyde. I'm talking a litany of movies. A litany of movies. I hope private funding can save TCM. Zaslav doesn't deserve. And that's what I hope they do. That's what I really hope they do is Spielberg, because people don't know this about Scorsese. He started the whole foundation about restoration film way back in the day. And he's been a big proponent, right? So, I mean, I totally agree with you, by the way. You get, but you absolutely You could put everything on a TC. You could put TCM on a streaming service itself, and people. I'm not saying they should, okay, but you could have this a DTC, direct to consumer type of thing, and have it as a streaming service, okay, where, let's say, you're paying X amount for Max. You could take all the TCM films, okay, and attach it as another subset. And if you wanted to pay an extra $5, okay, pay the extra $5 and you have access to all those. Oh, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that, okay? Or you take all those TCM movies and start your own streaming service. And it's just those. People, once again, I don't think it's, because here's the thing. You're paying for cable anyways, right? So whether you're paying for cable and getting TCM through your cable provider, or you're actually getting it through a streaming service, you're still accessing one way or the other. That's so. But this, I agree with Dad on this. Somebody needs to come in and save TCM. And I mean, here's the thing. You have two of the biggest voices in the industry for the last 45, 50 years in Spielberg and Scorsese. And I hate to say it, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Zaslav, because don't forget, he's a business person. Okay? It's all about the green. It's all about the money. Okay? I wouldn't be shocked if he's said one thing to those two and then axed it later on. I wouldn't be shocked, because he just wants to get him out of his hair. Okay? That's all. So, look, I'm just as nervous as everybody else about this, because these are stories that have to be told. And these are stories. What would happen, hypothetically speaking? Could you imagine not being able to watch Wizard of Oz? Could you imagine that? Could you imagine not being able to watch Gone with the Wind? Could you imagine not being able to watch, I don't know, The Deer Hunter, Apocalypse Now, all these films? So, absolutely. The Godfather. I mean, that's what I'm talking about here, guys. This is serious stuff. I mean, you're talking about 40, 50 Jaws, for Christ's sakes. Okay? I mean, and I'll say this, the other thing I'll say is this, too. If these films by Scorsese and Spielberg are included in TCM, that's why they're fighting as hard as they are. Because they have people, okay? They have films in this particular, on this particular channel that could get whacked. I mean, so this is a TBT, wait and see type of thing. I hope, fingers crossed, I hope he comes to his senses, but we'll see. Anyways, guys, what do you think about this? What do you think? Do you think Spielberg and Scorsese and Anderson actually convinced Zaslav of actually keeping it? Or do you think he's going to renege on him and tell him basically, tough luck, I got to do what the investors want me to do? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so we go to another story that's going to be about this year's Oscars. And Dad says here, I love TCM because they are unedited films in the original format and story. Nothing is edited in sensitivity or changed for the times. You're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So there's another channel out there that I love. I absolutely love. It's called IFC. IFC is independent film channel, and they do not edit for content. They do not edit for time, and they do not edit for language. Yes, there are commercials in there every now and then, but they are few and far between. But they let the film run as it was um, deserved, as it was supposed to be. Um, I mean, that's I love the. Let's just take a movie like The Departed. I love the movie The Departed, but I won't watch it on AMC because you can't do it. The ADR is so bad, and they don't care about that. They don't care about that, right? They want to have it run as it was normally done. So I agree. Okay, so let's move to a story that is going to be affecting next year's Oscars. And I have been saying this for a while. And maybe the Academy listened to me. I don't know. I would like to think so. But so they finally made a decision about certain something. And it was about Netflix and the Oscars. So, as everybody knows, we now have a 45-day window for any theatrical film, right? Take any movie you want, it's in theaters for 45 days. What Netflix, and this is why I don't like Netflix, and this is why I will not pay for Netflix. What Netflix has chosen to do over the past 5 years, okay, is they have chosen to put a film in theaters and then take it out after a week. Whether you go to, you know, more recently, The Irishman, or more recently Glass Onion, okay, Knives Out. Now, Knives Out, to its credit, had a full theatrical run, okay. The Irishman, and The Irishman got 11 nominations, didn't win one. Anyways, that all being said, one thing I can't stand, okay, and what really rubbed me the wrong way was that Netflix could actually put a movie into theaters for 1 week. And by the way, Glass Onion made $16 million in its first weekend, its only weekend. And then they yanked it. And then they yanked it because they wanted to get subscriptions. And it was a bad move. What you see, okay, you had something like Air come out, okay, and that did huge numbers. And let me be clear, okay? When I say huge numbers, it made back its budget. Okay, it made back its budget, and that movie was an 80 or a $90 million budget. And what ended up happening was, okay, that it ended up making everything back plus more. Now it's on streaming, okay, and as it stands right now, okay, the global take so the movie cost $90 million. Okay, according to IMDb Pro, it cost $90 million. Okay, Amazon gave that a full theatrical release for 45 days. Okay, that made $52.4 million here in the States, and it made $89 million worldwide. So it made its budget back, not to mention all this stuff on DTC, direct to consumer. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure that, and I don't know this to be true or false because I haven't walked into Best Buy in months, okay? I'm pretty sure you can find that on your local Blu-ray, okay, in your movies. So not only are they making money through Amazon Prime, but they're putting it out for the consumer. But that's what it is. And so they took Glass Onion 1 week and they wanted to remove it to get subscription. We'll never know how many subscriptions they got. Okay. Mind you, this is the same company that, in next week is going to be starting the whole password crackdown. Okay. Because they want more subscriptions. That's why I don't like Sarandis. Okay. And that all being said, the Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences, and that he says, Air is a dark horse best. Yeah, maybe. I mean, we've yet um, possibly. Okay, what I'll say is this: I think it's an 8, 9, or 10. I think honestly, we're gonna sneak, if Air were gonna sneak into Best Picture, it would be an 8, 9, or 10. So that's I could see that though. I wouldn't be shocked, but yeah, possibly, definitely. But the point is that that made its budget back. Okay, that made its whole budget back, plus DTC, plus consumer after the fact. That movie turned a profit. Netflix is not looking to turn a profit. All they want are subscriptions, and that's bad business. Okay, because I mean, take a look at something like The Irishman. That cost $150 million to make. You think they actually recouped their money? Come on, of course not. So, you know, it's one of those things where, um, sure, it got all those Academy Award nominations, but it was because of the cast. So, um, yeah, I mean, it made. Just looking this up now, $159 million budget, $968,853. That's how much The Irishman made, guys. $958,000. Okay, let me get to the story. So, according to the Motion Pictures and Science, okay, they are now going to lengthen the minimum requirement for any release for Best Picture eligibility. Beginning in 2024, films will no longer be eligible for the Best Picture Oscar with a 1-week theatrical release in an approved city. Hallelujah. But will require a lengthier stay in theaters. The Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences announced on Wednesday. It is a move seemingly to intend to bolster movie theaters and emphasize the differences between work made for the big and small screen. The Academy's Board of Governors earlier this month approved the new requirements, which again will not impact this current Oscar contender. So this will do it the next year. Then I stand corrected. Upon completion of an initial qualifying run, currently defined as 1 week of theatrical release in one of the 6 United States qualifying cities, a film will have to meet the additional theatrical standards for Best Picture eligibility, including an expanded theatrical run of 7 days, consecutive or non-consecutive, in 10 of the top 50 markets in the United States, no later than 45 days after the initial release in 2024. So, for example, take a movie like Maestro. Okay, Maestro is supposed to be coming out in 2024. So that, if they wanted that to be considered for Best Picture, it would have to be released in 6 cities across the country in the United States. So like Los Angeles, and New York, and Chicago, San Antonio, Denver, and Baton Rouge. Okay. But here's the kicker. It could be no later than 45 days after it was dropped on Netflix. So let's say it dropped, I don't know, June 15th. Okay. They have 45 days from June 15th. Okay. To actually put this in theaters to be eligible. So for the late in the year films with an expansions after January 10th of 2025, distributors must submit release plans for the Academy for verification. Release plans for the late in the year films must include an planned expansion theatrical run, as described above, to be completed no later than January 24th of 2025. Non-United States territory releases can count toward 2 of the 10 markets. Qualifying non-United States markets include the top 15 international theatrical markets, plus the home territory for the film. So, meaning that they can basically, it has to be released in 10 markets. Okay, the non-territories include 2, okay, like a Guam or Buenos Aires, probably something like that. Then the international, it has to be put into 15 international markets. I mean, how many countries we have, guys. So it has to have like, plus. So they can't just put this in the 15 territories and say, okay, thank you very much. If it was made here in the United States, it has to be released here in the United States, plus it has to be released in 15 territories. While virtually all releases from the traditional Hollywood studios would meet these requirements, they are more likely to impact the plans and pocketbooks of streamers, indies, and overseas distributors, which typically do not keep films in major cities for quite as long. However, it is understood that stakeholders of all sorts were consulted in arriving by the new requirements. Well, I mean, here's the thing, too. All these companies are publicly traded companies. So an IPO, for example, okay, or initial public offering, is like Netflix. They had to tell their stockholders about this. It was absolutely a necessary thing that they do this. As we do every year, we have been reviewing and assessing our theatrical eligibility requirements for the Oscar. Academy CEO Bill Kramer and Academy President Janet Yang said in a statement, "In support of our mission to celebrate and honor the arts and sciences of movie making, it is our hope that this expanded theatrical footprint will increase the visibility of films worldwide and encourage audiences to experience our art form of a theatrical setting. Many of the conversations with industry partners, we feel this evolution will benefit film artists and movie lovers alike." Michael O'Leary, NATO's president, who was actually at CinemaCon this last year, and CEO, said in a statement, "On behalf of the men and women who operate movie theaters across of this nation, NATO applauds the Academy's decision to require nominees for Best Picture to have a more substantial theatrical footprint beginning in 2025. We specifically want to thank Academy CEO Bill Kramer and Academy President Janet Yang for their leadership on this important initiative." The statement continued, "This decision recognizes that to be fully appreciated as the art form they truly are, motion pictures must be experienced as intended in a theater full of people on a big screen with state-of-the-art projection, sound, and lighting. The Oscars are recognized by moviegoers around the world as the pinnacle of the artistic accomplishments in movie and motion pictures, and this important step taken by the Academy affirms theatrical exhibition is the keystone of the industry. Simply put, the best movie in the world are best on the big screen." Okay. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Here's the thing. And the reason why they're doing this, guys, is because this film here won 4 Oscars. It won 4 Oscars last year. Now, Best International Film was a walk. That was always going to be given. That was always a given. There was never any doubt about that. Okay. But it did win a couple of Oscars that were pretty unexpected. Okay. And that being said, okay, I think a lot of people got ticked off, and I was one of them, okay, that basically, so it was actually nominated for 8 Oscars, okay? It ended up winning, so it was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, which it did not win. It was nominated for Best Achievement in Visual Effects, which it did not win. It was nominated for Best Sound, which it did not win. I'm sorry, it was nominated for 9 Oscars. It was nominated for Best Motion Picture of the Year, so Best Picture. It then was nominated for Makeup and Hair. And then the Oscars that it won, okay, was a Best Achievement in Music, so it won Original Score. It won Production Design. It won International Film, like I said, that was a walk, that was a given. And it won Cinematography. Here's the thing. When you have a film, okay, that was in theaters for, call it a few weeks, okay, and then it gets pulled, okay, and what ends up happening is that it ends up winning not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 Oscars. And then You have all of these other people that are busting their asses, making all these other films, and they play by the same rules, except Netflix, and they end up walking away with the awards. What you're doing is you're rewarding bad behavior. That's exactly what you're doing. And the thing is, that can't be stood for. Netflix is an outlier. Okay? While they may be the first streamer out there, okay, they are not the only streamer out there. And every single streamer, whether it's Apple, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Hulu if they want to do it, whatever it is, okay, they play by the rules. And I think that this is basically a middle finger to Netflix, as it should be. Ted Sarandis does not know what he's doing. And as a matter of fact, I'm not going to do it, but he actually was, there's an article in the THR today about how they're investing $1 billion in Korean television. While Squid Game was a thing, he basically said the metrics and the numbers and people, the views. And mind you, here's the thing. It's not about the views. It's about people coming back. It's like me. Okay? I love you guys to death. I love that you're here. I love that you come back. But it's not that you come back once, guys. It's you come back again and again and again and again. That's the thing. This whole thing was a big middle finger to Netflix. I wonder what movies would get nominated. I wonder what movies will get nominated for an Oscar this year. I'm hoping Air and Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff. So Dad was actually saying that I think he thinks that Dark Horse or Air is a dark horse. I think he may be right. I think that might be an 8, 9, and 10. Guardians, I could see that visual effects. What I would say is this, Antonius. You have to look at a couple of different factors. One, has a film been nominated before? Okay. Outliers or precursors, as they're called. Okay. Did Guardians get nominated before? If it did, it might have a better chance. Number two, the people behind the film. You know, whether it's James Gunn for screenplay or Matt Damon or Ben Affleck. Okay. 3, how well did it do at the box office? Now, I'm not saying that's the end-all, be-all, but that's going to have something to do with it. Because at the end of the day, they want people to tune in, and it is a popularity contest. Number 4, what subject is it? What category is it? Okay. If it's best screenplay, does James Gunn get a nomination? So there's a lot of different things there. I could see that, though. But what I'll say is this. This is a good thing. The final thing I'll say is that this is a good thing. This is a good thing done by the Academy. And they needed to do this. And this was a big middle finger to Netflix, and I'm glad they did it. Because now, okay, and this won't start this year, but it'll start next year. Now, moving forward in 2024 and 2025, it will be very interesting to see what Netflix does. Because up until this point, okay, they had just been doing whatever they wanted. Okay? But somebody finally pulled the reins in. Somebody finally said, okay, slow down. Here are the rules from now on. 1, you've got to keep it in theaters longer than a week. 2, it's got to go over internationally to a multitude of different countries. And 3, this is how it's going to be. And that all being said, okay, I think that this is what they needed to do. Now, I will say this. 95% of everything, of all these movies, don't have a problem with it. They don't have a problem. They don't have a problem with it. Whether it's going to be Apple, or whether it's going to be Amazon, or whether it's going to be Warner Brothers or Universal, they don't have a problem with it. It's only one little company that they have their little thing in the sandbox. They don't want to play nice with, they don't want to play with others. This is done because of Netflix, as it should have been. And I think people in the industry were sick and tired of having bad behavior rewarded. So I'm glad. I'm fully, totally glad about this. And this is, I've said it before, and I'll say it, that's why I won't get Netflix. Plain and simple. I mean, this film here, okay, this was Everything Everywhere All at Once, won 9 Oscars. It was the closest, okay? It was the closest to winning the Big Five since we've had in 25 years? And you've had close to 24 films nominated for it. Think about that. When I say the Big Five, guys, I mean Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Screenplay, and Best Director. Okay? They swept everything else. The Daniels won Best Director. They won Best Screenplay. Michelle Yeoh won Best Actress. It won Best Picture. If it had had a Best Actor nominee, it would have won the Big Five. That's incredible. So, the previous 2 Guardians were actually nominated for visual effects in Volume 1, especially. Okay, so then there's a chance. There's a good chance then, to your point, there's a good chance it gets nominated. I have no doubt about that then. Then you're probably going to be looking at that. Anyways, guys, what do you think about the Academy actually making these new rules up? Is it something that you wanted to see? Or do you think Netflix was got the shaft there? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I'm going to get back to everybody. Okay, so there is one more story to be done, and kind of an interesting little thing. I mean, so we've got another, film coming out in the middle of July. And I'm just pulling the photos up here for you guys. But this film is, I think, and I've said it before, I think could be easily a $1 billion film. Easily. And so the numbers are now finally being put out. And they're big. They're very big for this movie. So and I'm talking about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. This, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, I think it's going to be a $1 billion movie. Okay? Even though it's not indicated everything about it, could be whatever. Okay. So the reason I say this, so the numbers just came in. Okay? And according to the Hollywood Reporter, Dead Reckoning Part 1 is sprinting toward $90 million opening weekend. Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is tracking for a franchise best opening in the $90 million domestic box office range in the first 5 days. A huge start for the July tentpole, and there's plenty of upside, according to polling. Cruise is in Europe this week for the Rome-London premieres. The Paramount Skydance film begins opening in theaters across the globe 3 weeks from now, Wednesday, July 12th in North America. Now, truth be told, if depending on where you are in the country and you're watching this, check your local theaters, AMC or Regal. I know right down the street from me, July 10th, they're actually going to be doing a fan screening. So you might actually be able to get a screening for that then. Now, the film officially opens on the 12th. The $90 million projection is including a 3-day weekend estimate of $65 million or more. The latest in the famous action franchise is expected to be another win for Cruise after Paramount and Skydance blockbuster Top Gun Maverick, which grossed nearly $1.5 billion at the worldwide box office last year, despite ongoing challenges posed by the pandemic. Box office pundits believe moviegoers view the new Mission Impossible pick as sort of a spiritual sequel to Maverick, even though the two movies aren't part of the same franchise. In terms of the Mission series, and by the way, guys, last thing I'll say about this is stay tuned tomorrow. Come back here tomorrow. I will be doing Ghost Protocol. So that is the fourth film in this franchise, and this is all leading up to July 12th and Dead Reckoning. In terms of the Mission Impossible series, 2008's Fallout, the last film that was just done, held a 3-day weekend opening of $61.2 million at the domestic box office, followed by 2000's Mission Impossible 2, which kind of surprised me, which I didn't care for. And anybody who knows, okay, if they know, they know. Go back and watch the playlist that I have. I'm doing all the Mission Impossible films, as I said. Go back. I've done the first 3 films, and yeah, I didn't care for Mission Impossible number 2. I know why it did this number though. 57.8 million. You have Rogue Nation at 55.5, Mission Impossible 3 at 47.7, and Mission Impossible at 45.4, and Ghost Protocol, the one I will be doing tomorrow, 12.8 million. By the way, those are not adjusted for inflation. Cruise is a favorite among cinema owners for promoting theatrical over streaming. He's also lauded by Steven Spielberg. He basically said, you saved Hollywood's ass, and you might have saved the theatrical distribution. Spielberg told Cruise during a private exchange at the 2023 Oscars luncheon that a bystander captured on video. Seriously, Maverick might have just saved the theatrical industry. Dead Reckoning, Part 1 is directed by Cruise's good luck charm, Chris McQuarrie, who has directed the star in a number of other films. McQuarrie helmed Dead Reckoning Part 2 as well, which is set to open June 28th of next year. Footage screened at Comic-Con in late April included an inventive chase scene, which Cruise's Ethan Hunt is handcuffed to Haley Atwell's Grace as they flee police, and multiple factions of people who want them. And a notable character, played by Pom Klemoff, whose most frightening feature is how well she seems to enjoy it. In years past, Cruise has debuted stunts from other previous Mission Impossible, such as hanging off the side of a plane, skydiving, or jumping off a motorbike of a cliff in Norway. Other stars of Dead Reckoning, of course, you've got Rebecca Ferguson coming back, Vin Rames, Henry Serinran, who actually played Kendrick all the way back in 96, Simon Pegg, Vanessa Kirby, Angela Bassett is coming back, Carrie Irves, which, by the way, if anybody doesn't know the name, played in The Princess Bride, Rob Delaney, and Charles Parnell. Okay, guys. Boy, oh boy, I can't wait. That's all I'm going to say about this. Here's the thing. I think this movie is going to be a billion-dollar movie. I honestly do. I think it's going to be the second billion-dollar movie for a number of different reasons. Number one, okay, this is the last Mission Impossible in the whole franchise. Now, when I say last one, it is cut up into 2, okay? So I just watched this morning, a interview with one of the head guys from Collider, and he was talking with McQuarrie about directing Tom Cruise in the film. And he basically asked him, how did you do this? So he knew it was a long story, okay, and basically they cut it up into two films. The other thing was they didn't know they knew what they were doing, but it was really on the fly. So they had to shoot part of 8 when they were doing 7. It was crazy. There's so many factors here. Number one, as the piece mentioned, you have you have Top Gun Maverick. You have all this goodwill. Number 2, he fights for the theaters. Okay. Number 3, okay, he is the last, and I'll go out on the record in saying this. He is the last movie star we have. Okay. in Hollywood. Yes, DiCaprio is a star. I'm not disputing that. However, he's not doing action movies. Okay? Cruise knows everything you want to know about making a film. Everything. He is like a second director to McQuarrie. Okay? All of that being said, and then of course, okay, as you know, as the piece comes out and says, well, you know, they debuted. Look, this is a guy that actually put, and you could, by the way, go on YouTube and find this. Okay, good. Type into YouTube "Dead Reckoning motorcycle cliff jump." Paramount. They put a whole 9-minute piece on YouTube. Paramount did. Talk about promotional material. Cruise knows what he's doing when it comes to audiences, guys. This is huge. I think, and this is just me personally, I think 90 million is low. I think this is a shot to make $100 million. Now, it's going to do Guardians numbers? Probably not. But look at it like this. And this is why I said this is the third movie, guys. I think, and I've said this all the way back from May. There were 3 movies that were going to win the 2 weekends. Okay. I don't know if it's going to happen now. Guardians won May 5th and May 12th. I said The Flash was going to win 2 weekends. I might be holding my breath there. Okay. But this is going to win the 3rd weekend. This is the 3rd movie that's going to win the 2nd weekend. Not only is it getting the 10th, not in the 11th, not only is it getting the 12th and the 13th, but it's got that next week too. Now you say, well, Barbie and Oppenheimer. This is why I've always said Barbie needs to move. And you say, well, why not Oppenheimer? Because it's one of those things where, regardless of which one moves, regardless which film moves, okay, you got to look at it like this. They're both going to get crushed. They're both going to get crushed because here's the thing. You have the second week. I hate repeating myself, but it's not about opening weekend, guys. It's about the second weekend. What are you doing? Look at films that we've had come out. Look at Creed, okay? Look at Spider-Verse. Look at Guardians of the Galaxy 3, okay? On the flip side of the coin, look what happened with Shazam. Look what happened with Ant-Man. Ant-Man went down 66%, okay? So it's all going to be about word of mouth, and everybody coming out of the world premiere is saying, this is a phenomenal movie. Now, there's one person, okay, that said they didn't enjoy it, and that was the rap Scott Mendelson, okay? And he said, I hope I'm in the minority. This movie is going to blow up. Now, getting back to the piece real quick. Anybody who's watched the other videos, so it said Mission Impossible 2 actually made, okay, $57.8 million. Now, anybody who's watched the video that I did knows that I didn't like the film. That being said, I know why it made that much. Because the thing is that it was a sequel, right? The anticipation was there. If you go back to 1996, okay, quick history lesson, guys. If you go back to 1996, there were a lot of television films coming out, okay? You had the Flintstones, you had the Addams Family, you had Beverly Hillbillies. So what ended up happening was Cruise actually started his own production company with Paula Wagner, his Creative Arts Association agent. So it was Paula Wagner. It was the Wagner and Cruise production company. They got the whole library of Paramount. And part of that library was Mission Impossible. And they said, let's do this. What ended up happening was he goes over to Spielberg's house for dinner. Brian De Palma is there. Okay. Now, at that time, which of course Spielberg, he ended up working with Spielberg many years later for War of the Worlds and something else. But nonetheless, Minority Report. So nonetheless, what ends up happening is De Palma says, "Oh, you're doing that? Okay. Well, let's pitch something." What ends up happening is De Palma comes on board. De Palma comes on board, and by the way, that is his third best movie in my opinion. Scarface or The Untouchables is his masterclass. Scarface and then Mission Impossible. Okay. Nonetheless, he ends up directing it. Then he decides that he doesn't want to do a sequel. So they're trying to figure out a script because Ethan, you got to understand, in the Mission Impossible story, there was no Ethan Hunt. They developed the character. Okay. So they actually end up doing that. And it takes several years. And then it kind of goes in limbo. Face Off comes out. Okay. Nicolas Cage, John Travolta, directed by John Woo. John Woo is huge overseas. They said, he just did an action movie that did really well. Let's go get him. Nonetheless, they go get John Woo. So now John Woo's attached to it. And there were a lot of problems with the script and what it did. And it just didn't end up doing well. Nonetheless, that's how the whole thing. And then he went, he jumped around a couple of, so we had Brad Bird do Ghost Protocol. But when he went with McQuarrie, that was the money director. And he's done the last 3 films. He's done Rogue Nation, he did Fallout, and he's done Dead Reckoning. And it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. I can't wait for this. I'm telling you, this is going to be the biggest movie this summer. Anyways. Okay. So yeah, guys, if you ever want to send me a super chat or anything like that, all you got to do is hit the little thing down there, and you should be able to do that. So it says, I believe the tracking is lowballing. Will over-index 100%, plus overseas will be huge. Mission Global premieres tour are so good. From Rome, London today, now South Korea, Saudi Arabia. Yeah, absolutely. They're making the rounds. They are making the rounds. And that, guys, that's what I said too. Like, Mendelsohn didn't like Top Gun Maverick too. I mean, that's why I always say film is subjective, right? But that all being said, Tom Cruise is the last movie star we have today. Hands down. Twice in Sunday. The only thing that man doesn't have to do, and he hasn't done, is direct. That's it. He's like a second director. And, yeah. The other thing I'll say is, too, one of the last things I'll say about Cruise is this. He is a much better dramatic actor than he is a action star. Because if you look at all the nominations Tom Cruise has ever gotten in his career, okay, he's gotten 3 nominations. He got one for Magnolia, he got one on the 4th of July, and he got one for blanking on the third one, but he has another one. Okay. Action is, I've always wondered this, if Mission Impossible, you gifted him, oh, thank you very much, Dad. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But that being said, it's one of those things where he's a much better dramatic actor than he is. I mean, look, he can do comedy too. I mean, look at Tropic Thunder, right? But that's the thing. I can't. So at the end of the day, I can't wait for this. This is going to blow up and it's going to be huge. I agree with you. That might be lowballing it. I wouldn't be shocked or surprised to see this hit $100 million. I really wouldn't. Because it's not going to be opening weekend. It's going to be the next weekend. And if it makes 100 opening weekend, you can only imagine what it's going to make the second weekend. Right? So. But anyways, What do you guys think about the Mission Impossible numbers? Are they low? Do you think they're right on par? Do you think that this is a great opening for Tom Cruise and what he's doing? Are you looking forward to this movie as much as I am? Are you going to go see it in IMAX? Or are you going to go see it in 2D? Or are you going to go see it in Screen X? Maybe Dolby. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'm going to get back to everybody. Okay, so that is going to do it for today. But give me a couple hours, guys. And basically, we're going to call it like 3 o'clock, I think, Pacific Standard Time, 6 o'clock on the East Coast. Come back here, Secret Invasion. Okay, we're going to be talking all about Secret Invasion. We're definitely going to be talking about Dad. I know you brought that up the other day. We're definitely going to be talking about the opening and everything else about that. Because I definitely have my thoughts about that and about the episode and all that good stuff. So, guys, come back here, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it's going to be the spoiler cast. And I'm going to tweet this out for everybody, too. Don't worry about that. And we're going to be talking all about Secret Invasion. If you guys do want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at WannabeRounder. I'm always in spaces about movies, or doing spaces about movies, or tweeting about movies. And yeah, so quickly, I know Dad, once again, thank you for that. I hope somebody does claim that. What will end up happening is a couple different things. If you want to support me, okay, you can do one of two things. Take care of yourself, Dad, and you have a great day too. So you can either do a super chat or gift a membership as Dad did. Thank you very much. Or head on over to Patreon and do that. So there's a multitude of different ways of doing that. But okay, guys, so that's going to do it for this show today. Come back here, like I said, 6 p.m. East Coast, 3 p.m. Pacific, and we are all going to be talking about Secret Invasion Episode 1. I can't wait. It was really good, actually. So, all right, do the 3 things you need to do today, guys. Be safe, be careful, and have a great rest of the day, and I will see you back here in a couple hours. I'm David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye-bye, guys.